Hello and welcome again to another episode of how to make a basic platformer in Fancade. Last time we left up with this, a basic platforming movement and winning and losing and all sorts of stuff, which is nice. But now we are gonna add something more interesting to this game, which is goomba type enemies. So, first things first. Sorry, I forgot I gotta. Okay, first things first. We have to fit something related to the physics of the player. So, as you can see, the player is every time you jump, and if you hold the button, then you can see that when you're moving, the player just immediately stops at the next jump, which doesn't really feel very platformery. So to fix that, you just simply wait a second. Let me move all this stuff down. To fix that, you can just simply take the velocity of the object, the get velocity, let's just take a get velocity, and take a make and break vector. You connect the make vector to the velocity of to the set velocity, and the get velocity to the player. Well, no, actually, sorry, I messed up. I meant the get velocity, yeah, the get velocity object type to the player. Then you're gonna take the x value and connect it to the player. Well, no, sorry, and connect it to the vector. And the y value, sorry, and the c value is the one that's gonna take the value that we want in. Wait a second, I have not really much idea on how to on how I will clean this up. There we go, nice. And now you just take and place the same number in the in the C for the make vector, and now if you try it up, you'll see that the player feels way better compared to last time. But there's another thing that I wanted I wanted to fix too, and that's with the speed of the player. You see the raycast? The raycast is stretching way too much, and that means that the player is going just way too fast. And you can see that it's getting out of the camera, right? There will be a point in time in which the bots will not be seen anymore in the camera. So that's something to fix up. To fix that up, we need to limit the speed of the object. And to limit the speed of the object, we need a weird formula, which honestly I don't expect you guys to understand it, but at least just copy it and that's it. So first we're gonna take the distance between the velocity of the player and 0, and if it's bigger than wait a second. And if it's bigger than a certain limit, a speed limit, which I'm gonna set to 10, if it's bigger than that, then you set the speed of the player. Yeah, the player still. To, let's take a scale and a normalized block. To the normalized velocity of the player scaled by the limit. This will make the player limit to a certain speed. Oh, wait a second. Just to show you that, I'm gonna do this. And as you can see, the raycast stays the same exact. Like it doesn't stretch a lot, and the camera can keep up on the player no matter what they do. So we're gonna let this in the middle of the player, sorry, of the loose scripts and the camera script. So now we're gonna go to something harder, and with harder I mean kind hard to understand. So if you don't understand, you can go to the Discord server of Fancade, and the people there can tell you how to understand the things that I'm going to do in this. So first we're gonna take another physics bots because the enemies will also be physics, just for the sake of conveniency. And we're gonna make the same we did for the player, but with a little difference. We're gonna use lists. So we take this from the list. We take a set object, 2 by 2, and another 1 by 2, a get object, and a list object, a get number, and we're gonna also take a place sensor. Oh, right, and a increase number. I wonder if you have seen this one before. By the way, this is not needed. I just took it by accident. So you first assign the enemy to a variable. This time, don't call the variable and don't place any name to the variable. Just let it like object because it's more convenient. And then you take a set object list, and we add that object to a list called enemies, or E. Yeah, E. And we add an index of ELEN. And we're gonna add 2 more attributes to the player, to the enemy, apart from being himself. The first one will be a delta edge speed, which we're gonna use soon. So we're gonna set it to 1, and we're gonna place the edge as the the edge with all in caps as the variable to save everything, and the edge length as the index to save everything, where to save everything in. And we're gonna make one last attribute. This one will check if that specific enemy is dead. We're gonna in here right now say false for now because the player is not dead. I'm gonna take a variable that a get truth variable, and we're gonna call it dead because it's more comfortable. And we're gonna add in it a dlen. Don't confuse the dlen with dlen. They are all the three different. And now we take the increase number and we copy it 2 more times, and we increase every single one of these indexes. So in here we are kind of like placing attributes to the enemy. We will need it in a moment, so that's why I place those attributes in. And now we can close the enemy. I'm gonna rename him, obviously. Enemy. Nice. And now we're gonna do the rest on the script. So we're gonna use a loop. This loop will roll through every single enemy and check a lot of things for them. So first things first that they need to check is first thing first, we need to say from where to start and where to stop. We're gonna stop in ELEN. That means the amount of enemies that we have in here, and the counter will be number. So you can just connect a empty name variable in here, and that's pretty much it. And now we're gonna take a set object, set number, and set truth. And we're gonna set the object E to the list object of E. Well, no, actually, to number list of objects. Sorry, to the list E to the object in the num list E, on the list E. This will take the num object from the list E and set it as E. We'll need this and also 2 more variables, which will be the dx, which you can take the same way, just taking a variable, dx and num, and the same for dead. There we go, dead. Oh, sorry, I made this mistake. And now, wait a second, let me just quickly do. And now we have our three variables defined. I just defined these variables for more convenience with everything. So first things first is check if the enemy has something in front of it. Well, in front of where he's going. So for this, I'm gonna check the enemy's position relative to well, actually, dx relative to the enemy's position. So I'm gonna take up a add vectors and connect it here, and we're gonna make a new vector which it'll have the value of ds. And for now we're just gonna let it like that. So we're gonna say no, wait, we're not, we need to do first something before letting it like that. So we take a subtract number and a multiply. We connect the subtract number to, no wait, because the raycast is too high, is too long, we're gonna subtract it by 0.49 by 0.49 actually. But there is a problem with this, and that problem is that if we run the program now, the raycast will shoot to the right. But if delta x is negative, then it will shoot the ray to minus 1.49, which is definitely we don't want that, because we want both of them to be equal to 0.59, no matter if negative or positive. And you would say something like, what if we don't check if dx is positive and then we run this, and if dx is negative we run the negative of this? No, that's inefficient. We can do something even better and easier by just taking dx, no wait, by just taking the number and multiplying it by dx. And because dx is 1, the result will be, oh sorry, I forgot to lock the enemy, bye. I'm just gonna run a loop to the place sensor that locks every single enemy that is in the game. Actually, we can just copy this one in here, and we say after that lock, wait a second, let me take the list object, or I can just copy this out. That's even better. So we're gonna take this thing and we're gonna connect like this, and we're gonna lock it the same as the player, no rotation and only C and Y axis of movement. And yeah, they are locked now too. Nice, perfect. We will need this. So we will make right now a enemy type Goomba. Sorry, a Goomba type enemy. Damn, enemy type Goomba. And for that we need to first move him. So to do this, we're gonna, before of that, I'm gonna do something quick. I'm gonna check for the collision if the raycast is true, and I'm gonna check for E collision, which in this case should be the current player in the loop, well, running through the loop actually. And if there is a collision, we're gonna check if the normal of the collision, which is this wire in here, normal, equals one value or the other. Wait a second. If it equals one value or the other. In this case, the two values that we're gonna do are, that we're gonna use are 1 and -1. Oh, sorry, I did -11. So I connect everything of this to OR gates, and then the OR gate to an if gate. Oh, sorry, to an if statement. I normally mess up, and I don't know why, but I just do that. So now that we, wait a second, connected before to the collided, and now that we are checking for if collided and if the raycast is touching something, then you're gonna set the number in the ds list. You need to take the raw ds list, not the variable. For some reason it does that, but for some reason it does that, and I don't know why. So sadly we'll have to do it like this instead of using the variable. So we take the raw value and connect and make it and negate it. So that means assign ds num to itself negated. So that should rotate the enemy every time it touches wall. Now to make it move, which is actually what we want in the entire thing. So we're gonna set the enemy. We need to connect everything, or if not, then it'll take as not part of the loop and it won't work. So we'll say set velocity of the player to a new vector, which will be the current velocity of the player. Oh well, the enemy. Sorry, I always say player, but we are referring it right now to the enemy. Let me see. Take the break vector. And set the x velocity to dx and the c velocity to itself, and that should make there we go. That should make the enemies move. But right now we cannot lose nor die with them, which is honestly pretty weird. So to fix that out, we are gonna look for if the player has collided with one of the enemies. So that means we do p in here and we connect the player to this, and we have to connect everything to the loop. Remember to do this, or if not, this code won't work. So we say that if the object that is currently touching is a enemy, we have right here the thing. So if it's true, then we're gonna say no wait, we're gonna add first the normal of the collision for more comfortableness into a variable. So that means and here we got it. So now we say with another if statement, if n is equal to 0, 0, 1, that means the normal of the collision is up, then explode the enemy. Then kill the enemy, else you can kill the player. So for now I'm just gonna look for a pop script that I have here. If you don't have it, you can just go to arcade and look in the arcade for the pop effect from Potato Chronicle. I already looked for it, so that's why it appears in here. So you need to look for pop effect by Potato Chronicler, or just pop effect. And we're gonna use this currently in our game. So we're gonna say if the normal of the player equals up, that means if we are colliding upwards, then we're gonna where's the pop effect? All right, we're gonna take the pop effect. Oh, sorry, I lost it. The pop effect, not the particle effect, nor the pop add-on. We need the pop effect by itself. So here it's asking us for 4 inputs. Right now we're gonna just give it first the particle, then the amount, which in this case will be 5. That's a pretty decent amount. Where's a number? Oh, here we go, a number. And we give him the position of the enemy, not the player, the enemy. And then we go to objects and take a set visible, and we're gonna set the enemy to false, to visible false. That will mean that the enemy will not collide at all and won't be visible either. So that works for us. And now, no, wait a second. I forgot to add an if statement that checks if the enemy of that type is dead. This is why we made these attributes, to place them to the enemies. So if that's true, then we're gonna say if not dead, we're gonna add right now that dead variable that we got last time. If not that, then you're gonna do this. We're gonna add a sound because this game just feels kind of plain without any sounds. And we're gonna hit. We're gonna use a sound hit, not a boom. A boom will be reserved for the player dying. And now we're gonna take a set variable, a set truth 2 by 2, and we're gonna connect it to this thing, and we're gonna take this too, sorry, and we're gonna set the dead number, sorry, the truth value in number to be equal to true. That means that the player, why do I keep saying player? That means that the enemy is definitely dead. And we're not gonna add right now anything to the true, so that's not nice. So now we take for if not touching him, if not touching the enemies over, if the collision is over the player, if the collision is not over the head of the enemies, then we're gonna, right now I forgot to do something. Enter to the player and add a play sensor and a set truth with a false. So we're gonna connect the play sensor to the P, and the truth that will be called D, we're gonna set it to false because we are not dead. So this is just the dead attribute of the player. And why we connect this to the play sensor? Because if we don't, then the dead attribute of the player will always be false. That means no matter if the player is supposed to die, he will not. Or it will cause some inconvenience. I still haven't tested that out. So we're gonna check if player D isn't equal to true. Then we're gonna take this script that we got here, and we're gonna connect the false, and we're gonna set the D, that means the dead player, to true. That means the player is dead, and we can after that lose. Where's the lose? Oh, right. So if you try to run the program and collide with the player, you'll see that, well, actually the enemy, you'll see that we are actually colliding with the enemy, and I forgot to set the player instead of the enemy. Okay, so now if you see, we can collide with him over, and it dies. But there is a problem with this, and that's, well, there's actually a lot of problems with this. First, we can jump over the player without killing him. That will be fixed at some point, you'll see. And second, it's supposed that enemies like this should give you a speed boost, which we're gonna do first because that's the easiest one to do. So we're gonna take the set velocity and connect the player instead, because we're gonna set the velocity of the player, and we're gonna make a new vector in which we're gonna take the velocity of the player, the C velocity actually, and make it accumulative. What does that mean? That it means that the player's velocity is added with whatever value we add to the well, the player's C velocity is added to whatever we add to we set as the speed. So we set the edge speed to be edge speed normal, and we set the C speed to be itself plus, let's say, 3. So if we try that out, honestly, wait a second. Honestly, I think honestly that this jump height's too small. So let me just quickly set it to 7. I thought 5 was a good match, but actually it's 7 because you can jump 2 blocks, and it's nice. It's just nice. Nice. No, wait, actually 6.5. That makes you exactly jump like, wait, actually, what? We're gonna just let that, oh, yeah, that's something we have to take in mind. So So we can say if the player is not no wait, if the player is colliding with this, wait a second, we can set, actually wait a second, I'm just gonna do this, and that means that when the player is not moving we can set, well, yeah, let's try that out and see if it works. I haven't planned any script for this, I am improvising everything. It doesn't. Nice. Okay, so let me connect this to here. I'm just going to do this. And I killed the enemy I was supposed to test. So we wait for the enemy, for him to touch the wall, and he's still walking. We need to look for a way that when he's not touching wall, because there's something weird with physics in this thing. That is that if you keep adding some velocity to something and it's hitting a wall, then for some reason it sticks to the wall. Yeah, those physics are not that good of a deal. So to fix that, I tried connecting this to here, but it doesn't work. Wait a second. Oh, that explains everything. I made an error. Oh god, I was supposed to call the enemy and not from the, oh god dang it. Yeah, sorry, is that just, I am human. I also make some errors. And look at that, we got the AI of our enemy done, I guess. So why not just connect this up to here? That's just pretty much it. Okay, let's see. So the enemy walks down, and then he should fall, but for some reason he does not. So that's something that we need to fix. But first, before we fix that, we're gonna fix the problem that the player just doesn't collide with the enemy while he's jumping. So to fix that out, I'm just gonna take a collision method with the player as the first object to take in collision, and we're gonna check if the normal of that collision equals 1, then you can jump. This means that if you haven't collided with anything still, you won't be able to jump, which sounds like a problem, but it's actually a really winning strategy to make the player do this. Nice. I mean, it's just awesome. Like, oh god. And you can add to the height that the player can go when, no, wait a second. Oh god, I am making a lot of errors now. So 3, and now there we go, we finally got it. Nice. Woo! And now we can kill the player and we can now kill the player and die by touching him. But yeah, I noticed that the player when killed doesn't show any type of particles. So to fix that, I'm gonna deactivate this. This stops the program when the loose script is activated. If deactivated, the program won't stop. which is exactly what we need if we want these particles to appear. And they look very nice, like cool. And now let's make just something a little bit necessary, because just for get rid of just for not having any memory leak. So we're gonna check if the enemy at C position. For now, we can just copy this, and that's pretty much it. What we need to do, we can just, if the position of the enemy is lower than 0, then we're gonna erase the enemy totally, or actually just kill him. That's something else that we can do too. Why kill him? Because memory. There are some phones that are pretty bad with memory, and there are phones that cannot have a lot of objects in the screen or a lot of scripts running because they have bad RAM, or they are bad builds or something. And this here makes the lag less for them. I mean, makes less lag for them. Yeah, makes less lag for the players who have bad phones and want to play your game. So yeah, I think that's practically everything that we need to do. So we're gonna test the player so we're gonna test the enemy actually trying to fall. Let me just quickly erase this to test it out. And now we wait for the enemy to go down. Come on. And it doesn't work. That's weird. Okay, then, let me see why it doesn't work. So this checks for the enemy. Actually, let me just have the raw value just to see if that's the problem. Okay, come on, move, and they aren't dead. Okay, that's really weird. Let's be honest. So, okay, for now we're just gonna hide the enemy completely whenever he goes below the Z axis. And he has hidden. We should do that actually for the player too, so I'm just gonna quickly take this and place it for the player. That means I'm just gonna move all this stuff, which is a lot to process, and we're gonna move that thing to here instead of just losing. Make a copy of this and place it in here and connect this to this. And yeah, it should lose the same way that you lose by boom. There we go. It looks very nice. It looks nicer. And now for the enemies, yeah, that's a problem that I don't actually know why it doesn't work. But this time I'm just gonna copy the entire thing again with the player instead, and just try it again. Let's see if it works like this. So if it's lesser than 0, no. Okay, testing the enemy, the player. Oh my god, how many times did I say player? And it works. Nice. Okay, for the player we're gonna actually use a boom sound because it feels nicer. Because well, I just think it feels nicer. Okay, so every time the player dies, it just explodes, and that's pretty much it for the player. It just explodes. So for the enemy doing that, we need to look for a way. Maybe this, probably. Let me just do this, and let's see. Come on, man. And I have to add that last block though. And I'm gonna place the enemy closer to not have to wait that much time. So let's see, come on. And he doesn't actually fall because he first changes direction before falling, which is, yeah. Well, we're gonna let it like that for the enemy because, yeah, it's honestly enough for your first project. And yeah, pretty much that ends up the enemies tutorial. They just roam around waiting to see if they casually kill the player or waiting to see if the player kills them. And we also got the height, that moment when you jump in a Goomba and Mario jumps higher than normal. We also got the height settle up because we're just using a little accumulative formula. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode too. So that's the the first enemies tutorial actually, and the second episode in the series. Next I'll make a enemy that shoots at you. Yep, shoots at you. This will be really cool. Okay, so yeah, that's it for this video, and I see you guys next time.